I see YouTube is live, so that's good news there. And we are live. Look at Jan Kiefer already in the room. She was in the waiting room. Lara Haywood. Lara Haywood seems like a new name. That might be a Hursley referral. Larry Rowe, winemaker Larry Rowe from Grayscale. Good to see you. And we're going to let everybody filter in. Sandy Oberhan, Scotland Kiefer is in the house. Susan Hursley, that's odd. There's another Hursley on the line. You guys might know them. So Rick Spargo, there's a lot of folks coming in. Greg Hursley, it's a family reunion. I'm a big fan of this. Fern Gottlieb, Diane Yetter from Chicago, Debbie Long from Chicago, Bill Best from Chicago. And this is not her graduating class from the University of Illinois either. So these are all Chicago folks. Big fan of the attendees thus far. Let's see who have I missed. Jim Gallagher, hello, sir. Jan Kiefer, hello. Hans and Caitlin Greasy, the family attendance record is intact. Speaking of family attendance records, we are here tonight with Cellar Angels Martin Cody on SIP 55, episode 55, or as we like to say in Chicago, Otis Wilson episode. And for any longtime Bear fans, is there another linebacker 55 that comes to mind that you would like to throw in the chat line? I'd be interested to see how many people, old school. So tonight we have with us Adam Hursley from Hursley Wines, and soon hopefully joining will be his better half and significant better half, Stacy Sobralski, who is also a good dear friend of the company, and luckily the two of us. But I want to let everybody know that, as I said, this is SIP 55, and we are humbled basically this week because there were some big orders that came through. And when you guys do stuff like that, that is that phrase that I love that talks about fulfillment, that talks about flourishing, eudaimonia, the Greek term for flourishing. And it really translates to good souls. And that's exactly what the Cellar Angels are. They are good souls. So the charities are extremely happy with what's been transpired. Every order makes a difference. And speaking of the people that are drinking the Rosé right now, like I am, because that my glass is always half full, Adam is, and we are going to show folks where on earth they are getting that. It is on the Cellar Angels website. So as you can see, there is a SIP virtual tasting kit on the left-hand side. And you can go to the Cellar Angels website at cellarangels.com, order this kit, and you will have 4, 5, or 6 wines for the next consecutive Fridays. And you will be able to sit along with Adam or the next subsequent winemakers or vignerons and talk to them in the comfort of your living room, your lanai, your den, your kitchen, wherever you may be. And we bring Napa and Sonoma to you. Tonight, we're drinking the Hursley 2019 Rosé Merlot. And we are going to get into a lot about Rosé, a lot about Hursley wines, a lot about this Merlot, and more importantly, a lot about Stacy and Adam. So without much further ado, I am humbled to welcome from a windy beach out on the coast of California near Dillon Beach, ladies and gentlemen, Adam Hursley and Hursley Wines. Cheers, brother. The crowd goes wild.
Good to see you.
Very good to see you too, especially in the fact that there's a global pandemic. You have a full-time job. You're a winemaker for the last 10 or so years. You have a getaway at the beach, and here we are drinking Rosé. Behind me, it seems a little bit more like Rosé weather, but you and I were talking in preparation for this, and you drink Rosé all year long.
Yes. Well, I mean, what's more to enjoy than a nice glass of wine out on the patio at the beach? I mean, it doesn't matter if it feels like 45 degrees, which that's what the weather says, or 85 degrees. We enjoy Rosé year-round now, and I think it used to be more of a summer thing, but I think it's come into its own. It pairs with so many good different dishes. So yeah, I mean, just sitting on the patio, it's easy. It's an easy drinking wine.
I think you're right. There does seem to be commercially some sort of association with rosé and summer, but there is absolutely a temperature range from like 40 to 80, right in there where a rosé is perfect. It has the body some of them have a body of the red wine. So if it's cooler out and you want a little bit more oomph, but maybe not a big red, you have that. And then even 40, 50, 60 degrees, 70 degrees, maybe you don't want that crisp acidic white just yet, and it has that depth to be a perfect summer heat beater. But what you also mentioned, I think many people don't recognize, is how well it pairs with food.
Yes.
Very, very versatile. And I would imagine you've paired quite a few pizzas with it.
We have done quite a few pizzas with it. I mean, we pair ceviche with it, obviously sushi, a nice juicy burger would go great with this rosé. But it can run the gamut of all kinds of dishes. A nice salad with citrus vinaigrette.
Doug Rutherford, I see. Hello, sir, from Minnesota. Drew Wittenberg. Drew and Dottie together. I like to see that. I see a Jim Brubaker on there. So welcome. And when did you decide, because you guys made white and red, when was the advent, after how many years, to say, you know what, we need to make a rosé?
So we wanted to make a rosé pretty much from the beginning when we started. So we started the winery in 2012, and we made Sauvignon Blanc in 2012 and 2013. Actually, sorry, 2013, 2014. And then we decided, once we lost our contract with the Sauvignon Blanc, one of the larger wineries came in and stole that fruit from us. We were able to get a good priced Merlot, and it's hard to make a rosé from really good grapes. That a red wine is usually much more expensive because the grapes are more expensive, and so we were able to find a good quality Merlot at a lower price point, so we were able to produce it. We wanted to name it after May, our dog, so May Rosé. You can see her on the label with her ears. Hopefully she will make a cameo in a few minutes. Yeah.
I don't know. I'm sure the folks in the attendee list with the last name of Hersley are quite familiar with May and those ears. I found it interesting. May is a bit of a celebrity in the wine world. And in fact, I think it was either early this week or late last week, we learned that May actually gets more U.S. mail than Stacy, the matriarch of the winery family and the May fan club. Samantha, I see that, the May fan club, hashtag. So the dog is quite famous. And we actually have a picture of May for those of you that are unfamiliar with May. So our most famous intern is going to bring up the picture of May. If we can get the studio to cooperate. There we go.
May and her sushi.
May and her sushi. That is a
rosé.
Dog eats better than I do. So 2012, you founded the winery, moved from New York, graduated Cornell, worked at Google, decided, did Google transfer you out to California?
I did transfer with Google to California. I am still at Google. That is the other full-time job that I have.
How much of the Google history do you know?
I've been there 16 years, so I know a decent amount.
I was going to say probably about all of it. Well, and I think it's interesting because the timing is everything. From what I remember about the story is that it was like 1993 or 1997 or so, and they were the 18th web searcher or URL or that was launched that year. There were 18. And now they're the only ones left. So I think it's impressive what that staying power is when you make something that's user-friendly and very easy to understand. And by the way, I'd be curious when you decided to come out to California and why you decided to make wine, because it's not an easy business.
This is true. So I was based in New York and working for Google. I was going out to Mountain View every 3 weeks for the project that I was on. The engineers that I was working on with were out here, so I would fly out, I would stay the weekend, I would go up to wine country, Napa, Sonoma, fell in love with wine over the years, met a bunch of people in the wine industry, and a mentor of mine, Joe Phelps, and he said to me, "You're an engineer, you love to cook, you should make wine." And I'm like, "That's a good idea." So he's like, "I'll call UC Davis for you, I'll get you into their winemaking program, and you'll come make wine." So went back to New York. I started the UC Davis winemaking program from New York. And then in 2010, I took some time from Google, came out for an internship to see if I would enjoy it and see if it's something we wanted to do. 2011, did a internship at Joseph Phelps. And then in 2012, we decided to move out to Napa and start the business.
Let's go back to that dinner where you were sitting with Joseph Phelps. How did that come about?
Yeah, so we are part of the wine club at Phelps, and we were randomly here for Stacy and I for the weekend and waitlisted for one of their wine club dinners. So they set up this huge table at the dinners, and it was the last minute. They called us and said, "We have 2 cancellations. Would you like to join us tonight?" So we joined, and we're sat at the end of the table and happened to just we sat next to Joe's daughter, Lori, and struck up a conversation, and we became friends. She introduced us to Joe. Lori's daughter lived in New York. We became friends with her, and just through that relationship, we met Joe. We became friends. They would fly through New York on their way to Provence, and we'd have dinner there. And then when we came out to Napa, we would have dinner up at his house.
And it's yet another example of really the kindness of what I would call a legend in the wine industry to take fledglings, if you will, or aspiring winemakers and those people, and just kind of matriculate them through the process. I mean, let's be honest, Joe Phelps and the Phelps Winery is an icon in Napa Valley. Their flagship insignia is perennial, one of the top 100 wines every single year, and has been for 20 plus years. And it just, you don't see that happening in the industry. So, it's not like Sandy Weil was taking people around and the folks from JP Morgan, and they don't, if you're a teller at a bank, so-and-so is not actually going, "Hey, so you want to be a bank president someday?" Or if you're at US Steel or any of these organizations, right. But it happens a lot in wine, and you just happen to be in the right place at the right time.
Right place, right time. And I mean, you're right. It's not just Joe. Everyone in the wine industry seems to want to help each other. I mean, there's a lot of wineries. We're not competing against each other. As you say, we're all trying to make great wine, and there's a different palate for everybody. So, I mean, my wine, everyone on this call probably loves, but they might love 10 other wines or 50 other wines. So, yeah, I mean, we're all in this together.
Right, and it really is an industry where a rising tide does lift all boats, and I think the wineries recognize that. And at the end of the day, it is not only a food and beverage industry, it's a hospitality industry, so you want to make certain that everyone has an exceptional experience. Sandy Overhand and Samantha Schneider, hello and welcome. So let's talk about Rosé. So you wanted to make it. Did you have any favorite wines growing up, from Cabernet to Merlot to Chardonnay, or was it all wines?
I mean, I think I preferred the reds. I preferred Pinot and Cabernets. I think I grew more appreciative of white wines as I got older, and maybe started tasting better ones. Maybe the ones I started earlier on just were not as well made. So I would probably say Pinot and Cab were my favorites, and those were the 2 that I actually started with in 2012.
Well, and as it relates to Rosé, it will be our first poll question. And by the way, we are going to turn the cameras on after the second poll question. So I hope everyone has got the professional tops on and the pajamas and yoga pants on the bottoms, because that's what we're all used to after a year of a global pandemic. So the first question is, and Adam can't answer. The earliest rosé wines were made blending white and red wines in which country? Greece, Italy, Sutter Home or Croatia? Got a bunch of answers all over the board. Very intelligent crowd. Because no one is choosing Sutter Home. Thank you.
Did you make the best
We're going to
white
give this
Zinfandel?
5 more seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. All right. I'm impressed. No one picked Sutter Home, thankfully, so that's good. For those of you that chose Italy, you are incorrect. Greece is the answer. So that chose Greece. Actually, you're looking at 600, 700 BC. They used to blend red and white grapes together because it was considered bizarrely inappropriate, if not almost criminal, to drink wine that was undiluted. There's the namesake. Hello, May. Yes, Stacy.
May is saying hello to everybody, and Stacy's about to be able to hear.
Stacy's putting her earpiece in. So Greece is the correct answer. Hello, young lady. Cheers.
Cheers.
We got to fill her
I
glass.
guess I need a little.
It's warmer than Chicago, right?
I'm not sure. It's 47 degrees. So I'm
It's
not
close.
sure that's warmer. I think your background looks a little bit better than our background.
Well, ours is fake, but
But you're not blowing around like we are.
No, the temperature's not fake. So thank you for jumping on. And we had a Bill Best is actually in Evanston, and he says it's 60 degrees there.
So it's warmer than here.
Oh boy. And we know Evanston is close to the lake, which looks like an ocean, but I think you'll be fine. But we won't keep you past 9 o'clock there, so you should be okay.
Good.
Well, Stacy, we were just talking about the desire to make rosé. The story about sitting at the table and meeting Joseph Phelps and just having him take you under your wing, so to speak, collectively, is really the story of the wine industry, in our opinion. It's just one of those industries that lifts people up, helps them along the way, and especially the small producer. And I'd be curious, living in Illinois a little bit, going to U of I, DePaul, living out in New York, now living in California and being in the wine industry full time, and as an assistant winemaker, what to you is the most surprising thing to you that people would never guess that blows you away?
About the industry?
Yep.
Wow, that could be a loaded question.
It's just the 4 of us, me, you, Adam, and May.
Yes, that's it.
Earmuffs.
I think the industry is just, it's very supportive. It's very, people come together, especially when we've had tragedies and we've watched our grapes burn and we've watched, crops being destroyed, and competitors become neighbors and competitors become friends. And there's this camaraderie and sense of you're all in it together, good, bad, and ugly. So I think sometimes it takes I don't want to say it takes a tragedy, but it takes something that's a little bit, makes you stop in your tracks and say, oh, maybe things aren't always so bad. For people to say, oh, we should just be more friends than we are competitors.
Right. That's challenging to do sometimes because you obviously want to earn a living, and people do steal your white wine crop. So you are.
It happens.
It happens. So is there anything unexpected other than that type of camaraderie? And you can almost just call it kindness and love, because there is a lot of that as well. What has been the most uplifting aspect of it and experiences thus far?
I think it's just the people you meet. And it comes not only just the people you meet from, the winemakers and, people that are in the industry, but it's people like yourself and other people that have come into our lives because of wine. And that's just, you can't put a price tag, you can't put anything on that, because it's brilliant and it's wonderful. And it's just kind of one of the perks, I guess, of the industry.
No, it is, and for the audience, it's Stacy and Adam are absolutely like two ambassadors of this industry and of that city, and it's not unusual when we blow into town from Chicago and we can text them and say, "Hey, let's meet at such and such." They will show up, sometimes with their mom in tow, and we will have appetizers, and they are just fantastic ambassadors. And you're 100% right. Wine brings people together, which is why it is just such a fascinating industry, fascinating beverage. All the people, for the most part, that are here in attendance. I mean, Larry Rowe, winemaker at Grayscale and owner, wouldn't have met him without wine. So that doesn't happen in the milk industry or the dairy industry. I've never seen it like that. So let's
So what
get
is it?
going.
What is the quote? No good story starts with a salad, or there's no good. So good stories start with wine, and good stories start with friendship coming together, and it usually is over a glass of wine.
It does, and I like that, and I'm going to borrow that quote because I think that's very apropos. I don't care how good the salad is.
I can't take credit. I saw it somewhere, but was it no good story starts with a good salad? It starts with a good bottle of wine.
Absolutely, it's good. Well, speaking of good bottle of wine, there's this rosé. Adam and I and everybody were talking about how in America it seems like rosés are more seasonality drink, but I think it's starting to increase where you can drink them all year round. Interestingly enough, the most recent statistics I saw was the United States is the second largest consumer of rosé in the world, behind only France, and I'm shocked that we're behind France. So we need to step up our game.
Yes.
108 cases. Yeah, buy more wine. Exactly. 108 cases. And tell me a little bit, is that all related to fruit source and what you can press off, and or how do you do volume, and what is the impact on that? I mean, what triggers all that? How do you decide?
So, I mean, we produce around 500 cases per vintage, so evenly split between some of our different varietals. So, didn't want to make a huge amount of rosé. We were able to get, I think it was about 3 tons of fruit, and we're able to make the rosé. And in 2019, we also made 100% Merlot as well, which is still just bottled but not yet released.
Okay, so, and I'm going to show some pictures here, and you can walk us through these pictures. So, the Merlot that's in bottle right now is the Merlot for this rosé.
It is the same vineyard, same fruit, just processed differently.
Awesome. Okay, so as it relates to the process, I don't think people get a chance to actually see behind the scenes. So we're going to go a little bit behind the scenes, and Adam's going to be our tour guide and walk us through some of these. I can probably handle this first one. This is the cluster of grapes at night. I'll let you take it from here.
Yeah. So we pick at night. Grapes are colder. We transport them down to San Francisco where we produce the wine. So these are I think we had about 6 bins of grapes weighing about 3 tons total. So the rosé is direct to press, and what we mean by that, it goes in straight from the bin into the press, stems and all. So we dump them all in, we fill it up, and there's a big balloon inside, and it starts to expand and press the grapes. So here you'll start seeing the juices running from the grapes, and you can see it's actually pretty clear in this picture. So there's very little skin contact with this initial press, but as we get later into the press cycle, you can see the color is getting a little bit darker, and it will get darker over the course of the 3 or 4 hours that this press cycle takes for the Merlot. The Merlot is a thicker skinned grape, and you can see as it comes out of the press, we put it into this tank, and it will sit. It sits overnight in that tank. So basically, we're going to let it settle overnight. Some of the sediment will settle down overnight, and then we'll rack it off the next morning and start fermentation on that fruit. this is the Merlot grapes for Merlot that we're processing. So we sort these, we pull out any extra leaves that we don't want to go into the destemmer. So here we're taking the stems off of the grapes, and you're left with just the grapes.
So this is for the Merlot.
That is for Merlot.
And as you see, we are equal opportunity ages for our interns.
Yes, so if you'd like to intern, know that it's safer, hopefully, we will look for interns anytime.
Like it?
So if you go back one, sorry. So as we press, or as we destem the Merlot, you can see there's a little bit of juice that's running out there. We can make rosé from that juice, and what they sometimes call sake, bleeding off. So you can bleed off some of that juice.
Say that again. It's sometimes called what?
Saignée. So
Okay.
it's to bleed, the French word for to bleed. And you bleed off that extra juice, make rosé with that, and it concentrates the flavors of the Merlot that's left in the tank. So that's one way of making rosé.
And then you have
now
Hawaiian punch on the side, or?
Now you have Hawaiian punch. So this is day 2 after we rack that Merlot rosé out of tank, and we're starting fermentation. So to the bottom right corner, you see the yeast. As anyone who's making sourdough bread lately, the yeast, we don't use all natural sourdough yeast, but we do use wine yeast there. And we start the fermentation in small quantities. You get it strong enough, and then you add it to the larger tank.
Interesting.
So it will sit in barrel for about 4 months. And what you see here is us starting to rack the wine out of tank. And what we'll do is we'll put it into a bigger tank to do cold stabilization. One more slide. So this is a closer shot of what we were just doing, but we're racking the rosé by pumping argon or CO2, sometimes depending on what gas we're using, into the barrel, and that pressurizes the wine and pushes it out into the tank. So we're not stirring it up, and that sight glass is able to see that we're not getting any of that sediment that's at the bottom of the tank.
Got it. I love it.
And that's bottling day. So we're taking it out of the tank after it's been cold stabilized, and it is going to go into the bottling line.
How exciting of a day is I'm sorry, Adam?
How exciting is what? Sorry, I missed. I think you broke up.
What's more exciting, harvest or bottling?
Harvest for me is the most exciting. I mean, it's the start of the journey. Bottling, I mean, is also exciting. It's the culmination of the process. It's also a stressful day. Bottling, because you want everything to go perfectly well. There will be times when the bottling line skips a cork or two, and hopefully those don't go in a case shipment out to you. But we do catch those as we're putting them into the box, if not before.
You know, based upon the interns and their relation to you, I'm wondering if some of those corks missing are just forced air, so they have to pull that bottle off the line. I've worked with family before. I know how these product obsolescence things happen.
Yeah. And we do drink a few bottles as it's getting bottled. So
it's like my old bartending days when you made a mistake and you had to drink the mistake many, many moons ago.
Yes.
So I would imagine from an engineering standpoint and your background that bottling can be very stressful, because you're right. If something goes off or labels on crooked, do you freak out?
I do.
I'm usually running back and forth between the tank and the bottling line. Stacey's usually watching every bottle as it gets filled and as the labels are coming off. So we all take our different jobs, and it is super stressful. There's a lot of components in that bottling line, and if one piece isn't working, it throws off the entire day.
Yeah, that's.
I can honestly say I've seen every single bottle that's come off the line. Because I watch for the cork. I've watched everything. I've had eyes on every single bottle.
That's
quality
impressive.
Control.
All right, we are going to ask our next poll question, and for those of you that have been paying attention, Adam has provided you 50% of the answer. So there are how many different ways to make rosé? 2, 4, 6, or 8? A lot of early answers from the West Coast. I see a lot of money on this right now. A lot of side pari-mutuel wagers. I'd like to see. And there'll be an extra credit portion to this question that will be a write-in essay for the grand prize, which is good because we've never paid out the grand prize. All right, we're going to give this 5 more seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. A little all over the board. So we've got 2, 4, 6, or 8. Adam had mentioned 2 of them, direct press and Saignée. And actually, there are 4 well-known ways, or the most popular ways, to make rosé. Direct press, you mentioned. Saignée, you mentioned. Limited distillation is the 3rd one, and then blending. And blending, you and I talked about early on, because that's the first way that rosés were made. And it's fascinating. If you go back to ancient Greece, it was considered you were like a derelict, you were a murderer, you were a rapist, well documented, if you drank undiluted wine. So they used to blend white and red wine together so that you weren't considered of that ilk. But then the Greeks came over to a city called Marseille in southwest France, which is the modern day Marseille. And they started making, in 600 BC, they started making rosé wines right there in Marseille. And then, by the way, the Romans came in and said, yeah, we're going to take this over because we've got the infrastructure and all roads lead to Rome anyways. And so they were the ones that built it on their network and their infrastructure and their shipping lanes and everything. The global, at that point in time, export of rosé, which is why to this day, Marseille is still the epicenter of rosé wine worldwide.
Just learn something every day.
Learn something new every day.
Good stuff. Film at 11. I'll be here all week. Try the veal. Teasing. All right.
Good to see everybody.
Yep, Denise is turning cameras on. Debbie Long, I'm not sure if I said hello. Bill Best, good to see you.
Yeah. There we go.
There we go.
So 500 total cases. Any aspirations to be more, or is that's fine right now?
I think that's probably fine for right now. We don't want to grow too big. We enjoy this small family winery. I mean, it's us, and we enjoy being able to be super close to the people who have become part of our family, our wine clubs. And
as you were answering that, and you can look at the video later, Stacy had a very peculiar look on your face, how you were going to answer that. So
there was a little nervousness there. It's fun to harvest it. It's fun to make it, but ooh, somebody's got to sell it.
Yep, that's the phrase, right? Making wine is easy. Selling wine, not so much. So I see Fogarty. Hello, Julie Fogarty. Jim Gallagher, good to see you. I see Kent Dubia and a wonderful hat on a significant other or sister. Don't want to say, not judging here. That's all good. So, Stacy, how do you determine the Cabernet program, the white wine program, the Rosé program, how do you guys collaborate as a husband and wife entrepreneur team, winemaking team? What's that process like?
It's all him. I mean, let's be real. I mean, he's the winemaker. He makes the decisions, and I support. I had one request, and that was a Pinot, and so he makes a pretty killer Pinot. And I wanted a rosé because everybody wants a patio pounder, right? Like everybody wants to sit out and, well, hopefully, I was hoping for a good sunset tonight, but I guess not. But you know, everybody wants to sit outside and have a nice rosé. So, but as far as, you know, the decisions, it's Adam. I mean, it's he's got the knack for it. I just show up and clean bins and whatever I have to do and check every cork. But
and is there enjoyment in that from quality control, or is it the
I prefer this part. I prefer
Exactly.
this part with everybody else. This is the quality control I like.
I love it. So keeping it right at 500 cases, and 500 cases, as everyone knows, is basically a micro boutique winery. That's not a lot of wine. It's enough to get in trouble, right? Because if something goes bad, it's like, oh boy.
It's
But
a
it's
lot
certainly
yes, it is enough
it's
to get in trouble.
more than a hobby. And what is the best thing about, or the most gratifying? You said the people, Stacy, earlier. Adam, I'll ask you the same question. You know, harvest is obviously got to be incredibly exciting and exhilarating, and it's the culmination of the growing season, and you know it's been celebrated for centuries. Beyond that, because you've had a bunch of curveballs, right? You've had fires in 2020, you've had a pandemic, you've had earthquakes. So what keeps you going?
This.
I mean, yeah, I mean, it is this. It's being able to share our wine with so many different people. But I mean, the other thing is every vintage is so different. You're right. Like the growing season, the factors that we've had to deal with over the last few years, it's a challenge, but the reward is so great once we get to that point. So sharing here with everyone is the best part of this.
That's kind of nice. And by the way, May looks the warmest. So again,
Oh, I want the blanket.
I know.
It's the temperature is dropping.
Thanks to Grandma and Grandpa Hersley, she has a nice blanket and it has her picture on it and her name embroidered because, of course, why not?
why not? So what would you tell people was the most surprising thing about the wine industry from a production standpoint that they might not know?
From the production standpoint, probably the amount of days and early mornings in the winery. So especially when you have two jobs, I would get to the winery 6 a.m. I would be at the office by 9 a.m. So it's a struggle to juggle two jobs during harvest, but it's really rewarding, and I enjoy that 5 a.m. boat a lot more, knowing I'm going to make that wine.
And it seems you've been making rosé now for a few years, and rosé's popularity in the United States has just skyrocketed. And I'd be curious what you attribute that popularity to, if you know, or is it just marketing?
I think a lot of it is marketing.
Social media,
Yeah, social media.
influencers, and I think, and let's be real, I think when Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt did Miraval, it brought rosé. Oh, if you know Brad Pitt's making it or Angelina's making it, must be a good thing to drink. And I think it helped. I think it helped wine sales for rosé in America. Even though it's a French rosé, it kind of put it on the map. And I think also a lot of people think, and I also think a lot of people thought rosé was going to be like white zin.
Right. And
So when they started to see it
overly sweet and cloying and stuff like that, and it's anything but. And you can have, I mean, it's funny because Denise and I had, Denise is our intern here in the production studio, permanent intern, but with Swordfish tonight, and it's an extremely versatile wine depending upon the foods that you're having with it. So You can't do that with a lot of different wines. What I like about it. And I love yours because it's 100% Merlot, yes?
100% Merlot.
And I think
Every wine that we make is 100% of whatever the earth gives us.
no
100%
blends
varietal. Yeah. Nope. Cabernet that's still on the website is 100% Cabernet, 22 months in barrel.
Well, and that's a 2015 Oak Knoll District Cabernet that is still in fact on the Cellar Angels website. There's just a few bottles of that left. If anybody likes a fantastic, I mean, if you want, tell us about the Oak Knoll Cabernet, because 2015 was a blockbuster vintage, and Oak Knoll obviously pedigree of its own. But go ahead and tell us about that cab.
Yeah. So again, 106 cases. So it's from a small vineyard, about 2 acres, called Lazar Vineyard, and so it will spend 22 months in barrel. 60% of that is new French oak, and you're going to get the dark fruits, the chocolate, bit of spice, tobacco flavors off of it. Not overly tannic. Put it in a decanter for about an hour, and great with the steak.
Well, and what I like is, and we talked a little bit about your culinary prowess earlier, but you buy any 6 bottles off the Cellar Angels website, and you will be treated to a pizza party at Adam and Stacy's house, and it's something to experience. Talking about, I mentioned they were great ambassadors of Napa. They're great ambassadors of great food and wine and hospitality. And don't be surprised if you sign a waiver and end up becoming an intern. That's been known to happen. They're in sales. I mean, that's what you have to do. It's recruiting. But definitely 6 bottles of wine, and the Cabernet, I think there's still 2 cases left. So that is an outstanding cab. And why don't I actually show folks where we're talking about when we talk about this vineyard specifically for the Merlot. So it's that Google Earth time. And I wanted to start with France this time, because if this is the epicenter of Rosé in Marseille, you can actually see, obviously it's on the southeast portion of France. Obviously Rome decided, in Italy, the Romans decided to come over here and say, we'll be able the ones that can market this. The Mediterranean served as the shipping, but Marseille is a massive city, and all of the vineyards are to the north. And for those of you that were on our Rhone episode, you can see Avignon where the Rhone River bypasses, and that's kind of the end of the Rhone Valley. And then you have all of the Provençal region down here, which is all basically rosé. It's still a magnificent area. This is where Brad and Angelina had their rosé. But for us, as you know, we focus on, and for those of you that are new, hang on to your seats, because the travel gets a little bit nauseating sometimes if you don't have an air sickness bag. This is where Cellar Angels focuses. Napa, Sonoma, and plenty of maritime influence, plenty of Pacific Ocean influence, plenty of San Pablo Bay, River Valley, Napa River. There's so much body of water and rivers that impact this region. And the area where Adam gets this Merlot is so secretive. All I have is satellite coordinates. So I'm not even certain I can share this, but we'll give it a whirl. But how far north it is in the valley.
In Calistoga.
So you can see, I'll back out a little bit. So this is the town of Calistoga. So we're way up valley. And this is the Merlot vineyard. This section right here, and this is one of those stories that we tell you about all the time. This is a family vineyard. So these are gentleman farmer, gentleman winemaker type folks that Adam was lucky enough, kind enough, smart enough to get introduced somehow and say, yes, I would like to buy your Merlot. And they said, okay, sure, please make rosé out of it. Bill was struck. Tell us about how you
There's actually a good story about the vineyard and the vineyard owners, and just for scale, the house, which is kind of up towards the top, is only a 2-bedroom. That's just a barn, but the house up towards the road is only a 2-bedroom house. So it just kind of tells you kind of how small that property is. But the vineyard owner, and we didn't know this at the time, her mom, her name was May, spelled the same. So when we made May Rosé, we didn't know, and she got a bottle and she got all, excited about it because her mom's name was May. So I think it was just kind of serendipitous that we had that opportunity.
Fun fact, and this just dawned on me after knowing you both for 9 or so years, my grandmother's name is May, spelled the same.
That is a fun fact.
That is a good fact.
Fun fact, no longer with us, but May O'Brien, spelled the same. That's incredible. She didn't own her vineyard, and she was about as thin as May, and I think May ate better, but there's the ears that are famous. Honestly, if May could speak, I think the thought cloud basically says, "Why are we out here? It's freezing."
No, she'd like to be on the beach. She'd like to be out there running around. But she knows that she gets to go out later.
So, Stacey, your favorite wine is Pinot Noir. Why?
I like the versatility of it. I like that it can go with a heavy steak. It can go with fish. It can go with everything. I kind of like the fruit bomb, but not like an over extracted fruit bomb, but just I like that fruity. And not because we make a Russian River Pinot, but I like a Russian River Pinot. It's always just kind of been my thing. So that was why I kind of did the nudge and hoped he would make one.
And is that going to be part of the portfolio ongoing, Adam?
Yeah, I mean, it was the first wine we made other than Cab, and we've continued, and we're already watching the fruit grow this season. So yeah, it's continuing.
And how is this season going? I've heard there was a little shortage of rain.
There's a lot of shortage of rain. We are in drought territory, so it's going to be an interesting season. We'll probably have a smaller crop, but it'll be a bigger crop than last year. So hopefully.
That is the eternal optimist and sense of humor from a winemaker when there was no crop in 2020. So I appreciate the glass is half full. I love that. If you see someone asked how old is May, I think he is 12 or 13.
Well, according to her DNA, which we just did because it's COVID and what else are you going to do but your dog's DNA, they said she's 11. So we kind of thought she was 11, and so she's 11. She was she's a rescue girl from Fresno. She had a little rough life before she joined us. She had some challenges, and now she's making up for lost time, traveling all over, and has a wine named after her. And people know May because of her ears.
They know May because of her ears, and I saw her late last week that she actually gets more mail than you.
She does, thanks to her grandparents and her auntie.
That's impressive. I saw all the letters and the postcards and stuff like that. Just cracked me up to May Hersley.
May Hersley.
Adam, do me a favor and give us a flavor profile description of the Rosé.
So I get strawberries. I get some white peaches on it. A little floral notes, maybe a little bit of raspberries, cranberries. But everyone's nose is different, so you might get something completely different than what I get. Stacey probably gets something different. And I mean, that's all about tasting wine.
I like it. I'm asking the crowd. Or maybe Denise just asked them as well. Oh, she's emailing someone else. Stacey, I feel for you. The interns, good help is hard to find.
I'm talking to
I know.
somebody else.
Let me ask you this question: as a husband and wife entrepreneurial team, what would you advise another couple wanting to go into business together?
Don't.
Never let it
Did I say that out loud? Sorry.
Oh, Drew.
Yours on.
I would say never, ever, ever let it define you and come between you, because a business is a business, but your family and your relationship is way more important than anything.
And for those of you just joining, it's Wine Marriage Chat this evening, and spousal advice.
By the way, Denise just said I second that.
Oh, yeah. She did say that. And, Adam, you're correct. Don't go into business. You better have very, very thick skin. Stacy, you're absolutely correct too. I mean, there's certainly a book that I would imagine the four of us could co-author with regards to how to do this, how to not do it, that sort of thing. Stop business and get back to being a couple. This is actually the second business Denise and I have gone together, so we're slow learners. But I have always said that if you want to test your marriage, paint a house with your spouse. That's a test.
No. Hang
IKEA
wallpaper.
furniture.
Hang wallpaper.
Yeah, I mean, it took us one room before we realized we had to get a professional painter, because that's not how you tape a room. You don't know how to. You've done.
We painted a couple bathrooms together, and yeah,
What is this we stuff?
What is this wee stuff?
there we go. See,
That's why it
she
was
did
only
the lines, I did the big spots.
good. So we're all speaking the same language. So I want to go back to food pairings with this rosé. What is a can't miss food pairing for the rosé?
Food pairing for this rosé.
Can't miss.
Sorry.
No, what is like a can't miss? Where I don't know what
I
your
can't
palate is.
miss. I thought you said cannabis. I'm like, that's the wrong pairing for this.
Is it the wrong pairing?
Well.
Anyway, your mother's on the phone, or your mother's on message.
No, so I mean, we've done a mango ceviche with this, and hopefully,
May says sushi.
May says sushi because that's our go-to with May, and
I think it'd be chicken, like a lemon chicken.
citrus chicken would be.
No,
amazing.
I think the mango ceviche sounds incredible. That would be perfect.
You could do it with any kind of white fish, or with a shrimp.
I mean, it's a
That's what we've done
2019, and it's not like you're going to cellar a rosé. How long will it hold?
We still have the 18, and it's still delicious.
Yeah, I mean, I'd give it another couple years. I wouldn't go much past that, but yeah, probably. What year are we in? 2021. So 20.
What year?
2023, 24. Yeah, not past that.
That's a question that we've all asked ourselves. What year are we in?
I started writing 2022 on checks at the beginning of the year. I think I was just trying to jump ahead.
Anything? Do you have a favorite cheese that you would recommend with the rosé?
Ooh. I love a Mount Tam, but
And I saw somebody say that they had a goat cheese. I thought somebody said goat cheese with honey, which I think would be actually really lovely. I think the honey would be great. Honey is always good with rosé, any rosé. I also, Mount Tam is good. Anything that's light and white, kind of medium.
Well, I mean,
Also, like midnight noon.
and by the way, if anybody wants to open up their mic and ask a question, feel free. Have you ever known anybody to overnight a bottle of rosé to someone?
Yeah.
yes.
Okay, good, because we had to do that this week because we had a shipping error. So we wanted to make certain that the person attending this evening had a bottle of rosé in their hands, and he was very, very kind. So raised a glass to Doug Butler. His painting.
Oh, cheers.
Cheers.
And Doug might be a little bit colder than you because he's up in Minnesota. So I don't know if it's 47 up there yet. Although today looked like a beautiful day for Minnesota.
What are we at now? Now we're at 48, so we gained a couple.
Doesn't feel like 48 there.
All right, I'm going to let these two kids get into some warmer weather or warmer confines, unless there's a question. Does anybody have a question for Adam?
Does May ever
Go ahead, Eva.
If you can't tell, that's obviously Adam's niece because
Does
they
May ever help you
look just a little bit
crush
alike.
the grapes?
Does May helps crush the grapes?
She has.
She's helped in the winery. She never puts her feet in the wine though,
She
because
did one.
she did.
Yeah.
Uh-oh. That I didn't see that part.
I believe quality control was that was notarized, and that's in a binder somewhere. Eva, I like the question. I have a question for Eva. How old is Eva?
I'm 8.
Good. So now we've discussed marital issues and underage drinking this evening. So and wine production. Welcome to Cellar Angels, everybody. Thank you for joining us this evening. Are there any other laws we'd like to break?
We did discuss cannabis.
We did discuss. We just got done with April 20th. 420 is now behind us. It is a pandemic. Let's let these people warm up and get inside, because even out there, that wind tells me it feels like about 35.
Yeah.
So
That's not too bad.
thank
you all for joining. Thank you all for joining, and come out
Cheers.
to Napa if you're not from here, and we'd love to have you come have some
Yes.
pizza with us.
We'll
You
be
too.
six bottles, and you get to have pizza with Adam and Stacy. And next week we are going to be with Nick Gulch and talking about Cabernet and Chardonnay. So everyone have a great week, and be good to one another. Thank you for all your support. Stay safe. Here's the one.